The Cleveland Browns did not walk into Soldier Field on Sunday to compete. They walked in with a plan that felt disconnected from reality, detached from personnel, and blind to circumstance. And the result was a public unraveling that left their young quarterback absorbing the full weight of an organizational failure. From the opening kickoff, it was clear this was not going to be a game where Cleveland adjusted on the fly or protected its most important asset. This was a slow-moving disaster, one driven less by talent gaps and more by decisions that never should have made it onto a call sheet in the first place. By the end of the afternoon, the scoreboard told a brutal story. A 31-3 loss that never felt competitive, never hinted at a possible swing, and never gave Cleveland a moment to believe they belonged on the same field. But the box score does not even begin to capture how lopsided this game truly was. It was not just that Shedeur Sanders threw 3 interceptions or took 5 sacks. It was how those mistakes were manufactured, how predictable they felt as the game wore on, and how little was done by the coaching staff to change the environment around him. Kevin Stefanski has built a reputation as a detail-oriented offensive mind, a coach who prides himself on preparation and adaptability. That reputation took a direct hit in Chicago. 1 week earlier, the Browns had put together an offensive approach that made sense. Quick throws, defined reads, plays designed to get the ball out of Sanders' hands before pressure could collapse the pocket. Movement outside the pocket that allowed him to see the field, use his athleticism, and operate with confidence. That plan worked. Even in a loss, it showed a clear understanding of what this quarterback needs at this stage of his development. None of that carried over to Sunday. Instead of building on progress, the Browns scrapped it entirely. Sanders was asked to sit in the pocket, take deep drops, and wait for routes to develop behind an offensive line that simply could not hold up. This was not a minor miscalculation. Cleveland was starting backup linemen and practice squad level replacements against a Chicago defensive front that thrives on pressure and physicality. The mismatch was obvious within minutes, yet the play calling never adapted to reflect it. From snap to snap, Sanders was under siege. Pressure came up the middle, off the edge, and through delayed blitzes that exposed protection breakdowns the Browns had no answers for. The sacks were damaging, but the near sacks were worse. Plays where Sanders barely escaped, where timing was destroyed before routes could even form, where every dropback became an exercise in survival rather than execution. That kind of environment forces quarterbacks into mistakes, not because they lack ability, but because they are being asked to operate in chaos. The interceptions did not happen in a vacuum. They came as a byproduct of desperation, of broken structure, of a quarterback trying to make something happen because nothing around him was working. That context matters, even if it gets ignored by people who only see the stat line. Football is not played on paper, and quarterback evaluation without context is lazy at best and dishonest at worst. The receiving corps offered no relief. Jerry Jeudy's dropped touchdown perfectly symbolized the afternoon. Sanders delivered a precise throw into a tight window, the kind of pass that requires trust and anticipation. The ball hit Jeudy squarely, a catch NFL receivers are expected to make without hesitation. Instead, it popped free, turned into an interception, and permanently altered Sanders' numbers while masking the true failure of the play. That one moment captured the larger issue. The quarterback executed. The support did not. This is what makes statistical criticism so misleading. Sanders is charged with an interception. His efficiency drops. Narratives harden. Meanwhile, the reality is that he did exactly what he was supposed to do. That pattern repeated throughout the game. Missed opportunities. Poor separation. Routes that took too long to develop against pressure that arrived instantly. No reliable safety valve. No receiver capable of consistently winning one-on-one when the play broke down. That raises a much bigger question about roster construction. Why is this offense asking a rookie quarterback to operate without a true number one receiver? Not a complementary piece. Not a situational weapon. A genuine alpha who commands attention, forces coverage adjustments, and creates margin for error. Cleveland does not have that. They have role players being asked to play roles they are not built for, and the quarterback pays the price. On the other sideline, the contrast was stark. Caleb Williams played well, but more importantly, he played supported. Better protection. Cleaner pockets. Defined reads. A game plan aligned with the strengths of both the quarterback and the roster. Williams looked comfortable not because he is flawless, but because his environment allowed him to function as intended. Sanders never had that luxury. The problems extended beyond offense. Special teams added their own layer of dysfunction, compounding field position issues and eliminating any chance to steal momentum. The running game was non-existent, removing balance entirely and allowing Chicago to attack the pass with complete freedom. When a defense knows you cannot run, pressure becomes inevitable. Sanders was operating in the most quarterback-hostile scenario possible, and the coaching staff did nothing to soften it. Vegas expected Chicago to win. That was never the issue. The issue was competitiveness. A 7-point spread implies resistance, fight, a game that requires effort to close. What unfolded instead was a dismantling. Cleveland looked unprepared from the opening drive and never adjusted. That is not about talent alone. That is about coaching. After the game, there will be words. Carefully chosen explanations. References to growth, learning, and process. Browns fans have heard it all before. The frustration comes from watching the same mistakes repeat while accountability never seems to land where it belongs. When the quarterback fails, he is scrutinized relentlessly. When the structure around him collapses, it is explained away. Sanders is not beyond criticism. He is a rookie. He will make mistakes. But he is not the problem here. The problem is an organization that finally appears to have a quarterback with real franchise potential and is failing to protect him, failing to support him, and failing to adapt when circumstances demand it. That is how quarterbacks get ruined. Not by lack of talent, but by neglect. If Cleveland is serious about the future, the path forward is clear. Build around the quarterback. Invest heavily in offensive line help. Acquire a legitimate top-tier receiver. Design an offense that reflects reality rather than theory. And if the coaching staff cannot or will not do that, then hard questions have to be asked. Now it is time for honesty. After watching this game, do you believe Shedeur Sanders was sabotaged by the game plan, or do you think this loss falls on his shoulders? Is Kevin Stefanski still the right coach to develop a young franchise quarterback, or does Cleveland need a new direction? Drop your real thoughts in the comments, especially if you watched.